This is my Aprilia RS125 track bike. It has very little use. I am not the original owner, but the biggest problem I've had with this bike since I got it was that you'll notice the forks here. These are Yamaha R6 forks that have been grafted onto the 125. Modifications were made to do this, cutting off the lugs for the brake caliper here. See the mark there. And then on the other side of the bike, another compromise is how the brake caliper is mounted. A very crude aluminum bracket was made. The lugs are here, the caliper's there, it's offset. So that's kind of janky. How the fender is mounted is not OEM. But the main problem here was getting the fork geometry right. This bike feels numb in front, and I have other videos of me crashing it twice, basically the same way. It just doesn't steer right. So what I'm gonna do today is replace the fork with a stock RS125 fork. The idea is to get the geometry right. This was not an easy thing to accomplish because this is a almost 20-year-old bike. Okay, I've run into problem number one. I need to lift the front of the bike up. I have a pit bull stand that can be used, but there's a shroud covering the steering stem. Nowhere to put the pin, so I need to take the screws off, take this shield out, so that I can just get the front of the bike off the ground to start the work. Here's the bike with the fairing removed. The good news here is it'll make access to bolts and such a little bit easier to work on. I'm gonna come around and get this guard removed so I can get this up on the stand. So far so good. It's only been a few minutes in. I will notice there are scratches on the R6 fork. I did that installing it because the other thing you may not notice here is the triple clamp for the stock fork is a larger diameter than the R6 fork, and there's a shim, a metal shim in there, and when you're wiggling it back and forth and sliding it in, that shim gouged up the R6 tube a bit. Anyway, that shim will be coming out of here so we can get the other forks installed. Oh, there's a better view of the shim from the bottom side there, sticking out. That needs to come out. I have the front wheel off the bike now, and I've run into my roadblock for the day. The wheel spacer here, using the R6 fork, this is not an OEM spacer. Here's the problem. Here's the fork tube. This is the side that goes against it. There's no way, there's no spacer there. That's not gonna work. Everything's gonna tighten down, the wheel won't turn. So I need to find the OEM wheel spacer and swap that out so that I can attach it to the fork. So for today, I can't go any further till I get that done. So in consideration of that, I'm also looking at this side of the wheel, side with the brake disc. This was the spacer that was in there. I don't know if it's the original one or not. Again, there's the fork, there's the spacer. That's how it was set up before. I'm not convinced that is the right item to get this done. So I can't leave the bike out here in the driveway. I'm gonna need to wheel it inside so that I don't strand it with a missing front wheel. So that means for now, I need to put everything back together as it was and get the bike back inside to sort out wheel spacer issues. It's the day before Thanksgiving Eve, and I got something in the mail today. This is a very old used axle that I got from UK, Great Britain. Came with a nut, came with a spacer, It only came with one spacer. I'm working on the Aprilia, trying to finish that fork replacement. I'm going to take the R6 forks off, but I took the wheel off. There's the wheel, I'm going to reuse that. But the wheel was mounted to the forks. It did have a spacer, so technically I have two spacers. They fit on the axle. I am hoping this means I can, after years, put this bike together and maybe ride it if I can get the fork on. So I'm going to grab the forks, pull those off and switch them out and see if success is in the future. Taking the forks out, I got this side out. It was difficult. It was more difficult than expected. So I took the bolt out of the clamp and had a really hard time removing it. That's why. Not only is it totally messed up, it's also bent. So when I was unscrewing it here, you see as it rotates, it sort of orbits on the end here because the bolt isn't straight. So I need a new bolt. I don't know if the clamps, they look, well, okay, long story short, I cut off the handlebar mounts there a while back, but that hole may need to be re-threaded. So new bolt, because that is bad looking, and then we'll fix it. Okay, I think I've done a good thing here. I'm chasing out these threads. Took me multiple passes to get there, but all the way through nice and clean. So I've done that on both sides. I should have clean enough threads to replace that bolt and should be in business. Here is the visual comparison side by side. This is the stock fork, this is the R6 fork, which I really did not like. Overall, side by side, axle same spot. We can definitely see the difference in height here. That's pretty significant. So once I get these put in, I will have some range of adjustment up and down in the triple clamp, but that's where our geometry problem comes from though. Okay, I got these slid in. I am so happy with this. So incredibly happy. Here's why. Look at this section of the fork tube here. I can slide it up and down. I have a range of adjustment I did not have with the R6 fork. This is with the caps, even with the top of the triple clamp. I have no idea with this bike where it's supposed to be set, but I can change it up and down. It's adjustable now. With the R6 fork, I couldn't do that at all. I adjusted it as far down. It still handled like crap, didn't work. I kept crashing. So this is progress. So I'm gonna put this back on, put the handlebars back on, put the wheel back on, and need to get the bolts put back in. Okay, the forks are back on, the bolts are in, the handlebars are tightened up. So far so good, progress. Time to try to put the front wheel back on and see if those spacers, those will allow everything to line up. If that's all good, close to getting the front end back together and get it off the stand so it's movable, I am very happy because I only had a little bit of time in today here after work, just trying to make a mad dash to find out what else I'm missing. But so far so good. Well, things were going well until I realized there was a spacer already in this side of the wheel. Maybe I'm supposed to use this. I don't know, but this is the spacer that came with the axle I bought. It doesn't fit right. Either way I put it in here, the rubber seal lip, this won't sit flush with the bearing inside. So the spacer needs to seat on the bearing. This is one with the axle, this one on this side. There's this one that was already in the wheel, and they look like they are the same thickness. This one has a flange on it. That one on that side doesn't. It has a little tiny lip. and it was just seated inside the dust seal like that, but it's totally flat. That doesn't look right to me, but I don't know, so I'm not sure about that. I'm gonna start with this one that's on here, put the axle in, put it together, and who knows, maybe everything magically lines up and the gods are in my favor today, I guess. Okay, the axle is in. That gap in there, that is not a spacer, that's the end of the axle. So this is by design, that the axle sticks through the fork. The spacer is inside the grease seal. This doesn't move side by side. That spacer is in place, and the bolt on the end of the axle is tightened. The wheel rotates. So far so good. The only thing I don't like is the fork tube spacing here between the tire on that side, the tire on this side. It's not symmetrical. Is that wrong? Maybe. Maybe this axle isn't right. Maybe the spacers aren't right. I don't know, but everything bolted together. At this point, put it together, go ride it. But before I do that, I gotta do the brake. Fairing still needs to go on, but so far we at least have a functional wheel that is not sloppy side by side. Well, I don't want to jinx things, but brake caliper is put back on, stock mounting, which is beautiful. This ugly bracket that was used to attach it to the R6 fork was just horrible. Anyway, this is just so much cleaner. The wheel rotates, the brake works, it stops the wheel. I need to put the fender on, but the only other, I need to get the bolt put back in there because that one was bent. Still need to do that, but technically I think at this point I should be able to ride it around outside, except that, well, now it's dark. So that'll have to wait for another day, but I hopefully have a bike with correct steering geometry and it's not going to crash all the time. I'm happy. I'm really happy about that. Anyway, I will tidy up with the fairing and everything, but by the time I'm done, I should have a roller. I can't be too disappointed with the outcome of putting things together, but just to point out a stupid move on my part, here's the R6 fork, right? Here's the axle that came out of the R6 fork, and it has to fit into the fork, which it does. What I had a problem with was this diameter doesn't fit the RS fork. What I failed to do was to look closely at this axle. Just little holes there. This is just an aluminum sleeve over the stock axle. Okay, so the stupid part for me was going online and searching for hours and hours to find an axle from a used RS125, having it shipped from Britain, paying import tax, paying God knows how much shipping. I'll be honest, that axle probably cost me $200 when I already had what I needed on the bike. Okay, well, I'm still happy that my bike is back together, so I can't be too disappointed, only disappointed in myself, because honestly, this axle is cleaner and looks nicer than what I just installed. I may take this apart and swap it back in just because it looks so much nicer. Anyway, not that my bike actually looks nice because it's a track bike. I don't know. I'm on the fence. Maybe I'll leave that on the shelf up here with other parts. Happy. Fairing's back on. It's held on all together. The fairing, the front fender is still a mess. I need to find some bolts or something to hold it on, but so far so good. Brake cable. This is, again, not mounted. I need to rotate that out just a little bit so it doesn't rub on the fairing. Again, it's a track bike, who cares, right? Well, I don't know, I want it to be right. But it's done. The cockpit's finished, the suspension works. You press on it, it moves, yay. No idea on the adjustment where I'm starting from, so maybe it's totally crash prone. I don't know, it came out of the box from Roger. But when I get back after Thanksgiving, I'll go ride it around in the parking lot. I really want to go to the track on Sunday, but I don't know if I'll get home in time to figure out the fender, but maybe that's a possibility. Anyway, fork is finally on after a year and a half. Yay!